Imagine this. It's just a completely normal school morning, right? Your teenage kids are just heading out, maybe running a bit late. And then what seems like a totally routine encounter with law enforcement, it just rapidly escalates. Way more intense, confusing, and frankly kind of alarming than it ever should be. It's a scenario, you hope your kids never ever face. But understanding how these things can happen, that's absolutely crucial. Okay, so let's really unpack this. For this deep dive, we're looking at some fascinating body camera footage. It was originally shared by the YouTube channel, The Civil Rights Lawyer, and it captures exactly this kind of incident. It involves a Broward Sheriff's Office deputy down in Florida and 2 high school students, a brother and sister. Our mission today really is to pull out the key insights here. We're going to focus on the communication breakdown, how fast things escalated, and the really important legal stuff happening just beneath the surface. We'll explore what went down, why it truly matters, and maybe most importantly, what you can take away from it all. So let's set the scene for you. It was, a typical stop-and-go morning in Broward County. Traffic's heavy. These 2 teenagers, the brother and sister, they're in their SUV just trying to get to school. Classic bumper-to-bumper stuff. And that's when they encounter the deputy.
Yeah, and this is where it gets interesting right away, the start of the misunderstanding. Our source, they call the deputy Tackleberry. He's at an intersection, and it seems like he's pulling cars over for what the analysis calls an asinine traffic violation, something about the right-hand turn lane. But here's the thing. Looking at his body cam, he just sort of vaguely steps into the road and points. It's ambiguous. There's no clear stop hand signal, nothing explicitly saying pull over.
Wow. Just a point. That seems incredibly vague, especially in traffic.
Exactly. And that's how the teenagers see it. They're in this heavy traffic, they see the officer point, and they interpret it as him directing them into the far right lane. So what do? They pull into the lane he pointed to. They have absolutely no idea he actually meant for them to stop.
Just a complete miscommunication from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
It's astounding how quickly that spirals.
Oh, instantly. Because from the deputy's perspective, this is now disobedience. And the source says he gets super excited, thinks he's suddenly in a high-speed pursuit. And adding to the confusion is his vehicle. It's described as this bizarre police truck, hunter green. Doesn't look like a standard patrol car at all. More like, the source says, something a trash pickup crew might drive. So that visual ambiguity probably didn't help the teens figure out what was going on either.
Okay, so you've got a vague gesture, a weird-looking truck. Yeah, I can see how they'd be confused. They're just trying to get to school. So they pull into the lane they thought he directed them to, realize it's not where they need to go. And they do what anyone would do, right? They pull into a nearby gated housing development, just planning to turn around and get back en route.
Precisely. A perfectly logical move, given their understanding. But before they can even, complete the turn, the deputy races in behind them, lights flashing, pulls them over. And this is where the aggression really ramps up. He immediately gets out, aggressively walks towards their SUV. And here's the kicker. No license and registration, please. And none of that. He just orders the brother, out of the car now. Out now. Face the car.
Whoa, okay, so no preamble, just straight to ordering him out. Just given the initial confusion, that seems disproportionate. So what was the immediate physical action he took, and how does the source frame the legality of that first move? Because that doesn't sound like just writing a ticket.
Not at all. It escalates immediately. He gets the brother out, and then, like you said, without asking for ID, without any investigation, he yanks the kid out, slaps handcuffs on him, and puts him straight into the back of that bizarre police truck. Our source is really clear on this. This was a warrantless arrest, not just a temporary detainment for a traffic stop. And you got to understand the difference. A traffic stop, that needs reasonable suspicion. Maybe the officer thinks you might have done something minor, but a warrantless arrest, that needs probable cause. A much higher bar. Clear evidence you likely committed a crime. And the deputy here, he just jumped straight to arrest. The source argues there was zero justification, not even to frisk the kid at that point. It's immediate and legally very questionable.
That is a massive difference. So he makes the arrest first and then tries to figure out a reason. What did he actually say to the brother once he had him cuffed in the truck?
Right. Gets him in the truck and immediately accuses him. I pulled you over and you took off. He says, you knew better. And then incredibly tells this teenager what you committed was a felony, and then just slams the door in his face. But the body cam, which the deputy seems to rely on later, actually shows, and the source points this out, he arrested the kid before he even asked for ID. The brother only confirms his wallet and ID are in his backpack after he's already in handcuffs.
Unbelievable. And then later he tries to change the story. The source mentioned gaslighting.
Exactly. Later on, he tries to walk it back. He tells the teenager something like, oh, you were only being detained for your safety because you couldn't produce ID, which, based on the timeline shown in the footage, our source calls a complete lie. He's trying to rewrite what just happened seemingly to cover for the initial arrest.
Wow. And what about the sister? How did he interact with her while her brother's in the back of the truck?
It's just as bad, really. The source describes him angrily and aggressively confronting her. She's crying, she's on the phone with their mom, and he demands her brother's ID from her, tells her, we're not doing any phone calls during my traffic stop. You know, the source poses a really powerful question here, something for all of us to think about. Would it bother you for this rude, stranger, grown man to get into your car with your juvenile teenage daughter? Drive anywhere with her without your knowledge, without consent, much less lecture her and make her cry. It just highlights that huge power imbalance and maybe a real lack of empathy in that moment.
That's incredibly stressful, just imagining it. And the officer's overall demeanor, his tone, what else stood out? He seemed pretty convinced he was in the right.
Oh, absolutely convinced. He repeatedly lectures both kids about common sense. Claims things like, a police officer would not stand in front of you and direct you to another lane to drive, which is exactly what they thought he did. He even throws in, my 16-year-old son who has a permit, my daughter, they would know exactly what I was doing. And he boasts, too. Says, the other 5 cars I pulled over and did the same thing. They knew what to do. The analysis really paints him as, well, rude, incompetent, a liar, a bully, completely unprofessional. The source even makes a comment about his demeanor seeming out of place, like an imported personality from some northern state, contrasting with what they see as typical rural Florida politeness. It clearly didn't help de-escalate anything.
It sounds like he was just digging in deeper. But amidst all this aggression and confusion, how did the teenagers actually handle themselves?
This is one of the most striking parts, actually. The source says the kids actually did a great job, considering the pressure. Incredible. It emphasizes that at all times they were completely polite and cooperative. Even when being yelled at, even with the brother being arrested, they basically made fantastic witnesses for themselves. And the source notes, they probably didn't even realize a body cam was recording the whole thing.
That's remarkable maturity under fire.
It really is. The analysis acknowledges, look, kids will make mistakes, like maybe not instantly recognizing his initial intent, especially given how vague it was. But their conduct after the stop began, under that kind of pressure, really commendable.
So after all that, the arrest, the lecturing, the sister crying, how did it actually end? Did he stick with the felony accusation?
No, and this is where it seems like he tries to backtrack. Ultimately, he issues a citation, just a ticket, for being in a right turn-only lane and disrupting traffic. That's it. He sends them on their way, but not without a parting shot. I'm sure I'll get a call from your mom. And then the ultimate irony, he adds, the nice thing about what I have is a body cam, as if it proves his case.
Right, the body cam he thinks exonerates him.
Exactly. But our source uses that exact footage to argue the opposite. They contend the deputy knew that he was wrong here, that he attempted to undo that arrest and play it off as just a regular traffic stop or maybe just a brief detainment because of the ID issue, which we know wasn't the initial reason. His confidence in the camera footage is, let's say, misplaced, according to the analysis.
Okay, we've just walked through a really unsettling encounter. How a simple, maybe ambiguous hand signal just completely unraveled. It went from a possible minor traffic issue to an aggressive, potentially unlawful arrest, lecturing the whole 9 yards. It really brings us to that core legal point you touched on earlier. Can you just crystallize for us again, what is the difference between a traffic stop and an arrest? And why is that distinction so critical here?
Absolutely. It's fundamental and something everyone driving should understand. Our source lays it out clearly. A traffic stop requires only reasonable suspicion. That's a relatively low standard. The officer needs some objective reason to suspect you might have committed a traffic violation, like maybe you drifted over the line slightly. It allows them to stop you briefly, investigate. But an arrest, specifically a warrantless arrest, like the one argued here, needs probable cause. That's a much, much higher standard. It means having enough facts and circumstances to lead a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been, is being, or is about to be committed by that specific person. It's a significant jump. In this incident, the analysis strongly argues the deputy bypassed the investigation stage entirely. He didn't build reasonable suspicion, let alone probable cause. He went straight for the arrest. And by doing that, the source contends, he needlessly infringed on the teenager's Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable seizures. He jumped the gun, legally speaking.
That clarity is so important. And the body cam part, it's fascinating, isn't it? He's banking on it. The analysis uses it to show the opposite. What does that tell us about body cams in general?
It's such a key point. Body cams are meant for transparency, for accountability, and they can be incredibly valuable for that. But this case is a perfect example that the footage itself isn't always the final word. Interpretation matters. Narrative matters. Here, the deputy clearly thought it backed his story. But the critical analysis, looking frame by frame, seeing the sequence of events, it exposed the inconsistencies. It revealed the alleged gaslighting. So yes, transparency tool, absolutely. But it still requires context, critical viewing, and it can cut both ways. It ended up being evidence against his version of events here.
So wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways for someone listening? What can we learn from this really unfortunate situation?
Well, I think there are a few huge things. First, just how easily miscommunication, even something as simple as a hand gesture, can escalate, especially when there's a power dynamic like with law enforcement. Second, the importance, even when you're scared or confused, of trying to remain polite and cooperative like these teenagers did. It didn't stop the initial escalation, unfortunately, but it certainly didn't make things worse for them, and it created a very clear record of their own conduct. That can be crucial.
Right. Their composure was remarkable and ultimately helpful, even if just for the record.
Exactly. And third, and maybe most practically, this is just a vivid, real-world reminder of why knowing your rights matters. Understanding that crucial difference between being detained for a traffic stop versus being arrested. It's not just legal jargon, it has real consequences. Knowing that difference empowers you helps you understand what's happening and what you should or shouldn't be expected to do.
We've seen how that simple misunderstanding just unraveled everything, leading to aggression, questionable legal actions, and highlighting those intense power dynamics in police stops.
Yeah, and that final thought from the source really sticks with you, doesn't it? Our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it. And it really makes you think. In a world where we have so much information, body cams, everything, how do we actually equip ourselves, and especially young drivers, right? How do we prepare them to navigate these incredibly high-stress moments, to know and assert their rights calmly, even when the person with the badge seems to be reacting out of maybe fear or assumption or just having a really bad day? What part of this whole encounter stands out most to you? It's definitely a lot to process.